writing stuff down, and these things was all over my back, attacking my back, making my back burn, and it was flying all in front of my eyes. And after that, I went to my vehicle and tried to open the door. Y'all wouldn't believe it, but my door handle broke. I said, boy, I ain't gonna let it get to me. I said, I'm not even gonna let it get to me. I said, I'm gonna let it get to me. Get to 7 subscriptions. That Tommy Lover. Tommy Lover, subscribe. Oh, give somebody a subscription. Can't even see who it is. Alright, we got that going. One last thing, y'all, and we're gonna rock and roll. Let's see, where's my tell you, so many tricks, boy. Tricks. Without the tree. Without the tree. Telling you. I ain't never seen nothing like it. And just think if you're a person that's not getting the information, you're just kind of walking around like mostly everybody else and don't know this stuff, because I'm like, what in the world have we, where have they brought us into? Alright, so I got what I need with that, and alright. Alright, y'all. So this is part 2 of the simulation / matrix. So I know it's real. And I'm just giving y'all information, you know, so y'all can make your own decision as well. But it's a lot of information that I received, so I'm going to share some of this stuff with you. This really makes you think. That's all I can say. Really makes you think. So, the simulation matrix part 2. So we will be talking about something that is called the demiurge. It also goes by the name of Yaldabaoth. It also goes by the name of Yahweh. It goes by the name of Jehovah. And it also goes by the name of Lord Archon. So y'all notice how that word Lord is coming back up again. So at any times if you're hearing me use demiurge or Yaldabaoth, Yahweh, it's the same. I'm talking about the same thing. All right, the same thing. Yaldabaoth. That's what we're talking about when we're talking about the demiurge. So I'll be using those names tonight, and it's all the same person. Now, first of all, Yaldabaoth. Let's talk about what that means. So remember that name, but that's a important name for the night. Yaldabaoth. It means child of chaos. All right, so that's already telling us or hinting to us that this is not a good name. All right, child of chaos. So what I want to do now, I want to explain how I was even led to all this information, like how all this started. So as you know with me, because I've told y'all this many times before, I don't go out here saying, hey, what topic am I going to talk about today? And I go sit and I write. So I don't do that. I wait to see what Yeshua brings to me, and once he brings whatever, then I go from there. This started, I want to say this, so this started a while ago, but when it started, I kind of ignored it because at the time, I didn't understand it, and there was so much other stuff that was going on, so I kind of forgot about it. But this started first when I heard a voice that told me one day. The voice told me, it said, none of this is real. I was like, what? You know, and I heard it again. It's like, none of this is real. All of this is an illusion. So I was a little confused about this. I'm trying to figure this out. Like, how could this be an illusion? You know, I can touch stuff. So I was having a rough time trying to understand that. You know, if it's an illusion and it's really not here, how is it that I can touch it? So, you know, I was kind of thrown off. But anyway, I had a lot that was happening, a lot that was going on. So it kind of just pushed to the back of my mind. So as time progressed, then things started to resurface. And I saw myself in a dream, and I told y'all about this. I saw myself in a dream, and in this dream, I started looking around. It was like I was walking outside. I know it was nighttime, but the best way I could describe it, it was like, trying to find the best way to describe it. It was almost like I knew I was in something. So the best way I can describe it, just say you're in a snow globe. You're in a snow globe, and you just see numbers all around you. So that's what I saw. I saw numbers, but I could tell that it was like, it was a program. So that's how I felt, like I was walking through a program. So I had this dream, and I had a family member that was in the dream with me. And the family, I turned around, I looked at the family member, and I said, I told you that this was all a simulation, and I woke up. The next thing that happened, and it's probably happened maybe 2 days after I had that dream, so I had another dream. So I'm in this dream, and I look over, and I see, it's like the biggest python I've ever seen. So I have a lot of dreams with snakes. So all dreams with snakes does not necessarily mean that it's a bad dream, but I'm looking, and I'm like, man, this thing is huge. So I was just standing there, and I was looking at it, and it was coiled up, and then it kind of started to stretch out. And then after that, it changed. So it switched into some type of dog, but the dog was like a demonic dog is all the best thing I could describe to. It was like a demonic dog. So one thing that I normally do in dreams, don't tell me how I know how to do this, but I do this all the time. Whenever I'm in front of like a dog, a bear, or a lion, things like that, I always take my hands and I raise them up high, right? So this is supposed to make you look bigger than what you really are. So this is a way to kind of intimidate these animals. So that's what I did. And I'm looking at this vicious dog. So after that, that was it. I woke up. So I was like, that's strange. A snake and a dog. Like, what was the meaning? So I said to myself, yeah, this is probably just another demon that's coming in, and like they do. So I didn't pay it. I really paid no mind. So I'm gonna say maybe the next day. Right, the next day. So the next day I'm on social media, and which I don't like, but for some reason it's like I had like an urge to go on social media. So on social media, and next thing I know, this picture pops up, and I stop and I look, and I said, hold on. I said, this is the same thing that I just saw in my dream a few nights ago. And so I'm looking at the picture and I'm like, what is this? And I look and I see that this, I'm gonna call it this creature that I'm looking at, that this creature name is the demiurge, or it goes by Yaldabaoth. I was like, So I already knew that. I said, I see exactly what's happening, what's going on. So that's how I was led to, all the information and stuff that I'm gonna give you tonight. Now, all of this starts with a farmer, right? So it's this farmer that's in Egypt. And the farmer, he found these 13 books near Nag Hammadi, Egypt. 13 books that he said it was ancient books that he found. All right. So within these books, they have all of these ancient texts. So of course the guy, he didn't know what he was, what he was looking at, or how to interpret this stuff. So they call these books the Nag Hammadi library, or some people call them the Gnostic texts. So that's real important to remember that. The Nag Hammadi library, or the Gnostic text. Now the books are somewhere around 18 and 1900 years old. So they've been around. Books have been around for a minute. Now the thing about these books, the thing about these texts, these experts that have been studying these books, because it took them a long time trying to interpret this stuff, so they had to get some people that specialize to come and look over this stuff, to break this stuff down, to be able to interpret it. So one thing that I noticed that a lot of the experts were saying is that they really feel good about these books, and the reason why, because like the Bible, how the Bible's been circulating so long, and it's been touched and tampered with, pulled out, put back in, that type of stuff. So these books, it wasn't like that. Totally different. So they have not been touched, have not been altered or tampered with. So a lot of the experts are saying they feel real good and confident about the information. Now, and one of the books is called the Apocrypha of John. It even goes by the secret book of John. All right. So in this book, it describes someone called Sophia, and it also talks about the birth of this demiurge, or Yaldabaoth, and his creation of something called archons. So that's what we're going to cover, so that you can understand who Sophia is, and you can get a better understanding of Yaldabaoth, or the demiurge, and also who the archons are. Let's start with Sophia. So Sophia is what they call an eon. And Sophia stood for, well, she represented wisdom. Now the eons, so eons, they are like a manifestation or a expression of what they call it the monad or the source. So basically, they're talking about the Most High God. So the eons, they are a manifestation or expression of the Most High God. So let me explain to you when I say manifestation or expression of the Most High God, because I know that may be hard for some people to understand what I'm saying. So I'm going to give you an example. So let's just say that the Most High is the sun. All right. The eons would be considered the rays of the sun because they are an expression of the Most High. Right? Let's just say if it was something that was demonic, right? And let's just say these eons were the manifestation or expression of something demonic. Well, they would project hate, in other words. So they would be like, the Most High is the sun, and they're like the sun rays of the Most High. All right? They're not even considered gods. They would be considered something higher than gods. Now, again, they emanate from the Most High, or they refer to the Most High as source or the monad. All right, so they are what we call expressions. So we know that the Most High is 100% love, 100% joy. So that's just what they express. They express that coming from the Most High. Eons, they exist in pairs. So eons exist, so it's what we call counterpartners. So you have a male and then you have a female. So an eon, it is always a pair. So they call this pair syzygies. So the pairs are called syzygies, the male and the female. Now, for an example, you may have a pair and the female may represent depth and then the male represents silence. Or you have another one that may represent the mind and another one represents the truth. And you have another pair that represents the word and then another one that represents life. So they represent different things. Now, this was very interesting to me. But anyway, so the monad, or the Most High God, so they are in this place called the pleroma. This is where the eons are in the Most High. This is a realm that is called the pleroma. Now, eons are a part of the pleroma. The pleroma is the realm where everything is perfect and everything is complete. So it's a realm where everything is perfect and it's complete in harmony. So it's basically like it's a place where it's flawless. In other words, a lot of people, they just refer to it as the fullness. The home of the true divine, the divine realm. So, y'all, what does that sound like to y'all when I talk about the pleroma? What place does that sound like to y'all when I talk about the pleroma? Exactly. So, I always say, there's no such thing as heaven. There's no such thing as hell. But this sounds closer to what we be calling heaven. But again, calling stuff by the wrong name, because this Bible, this religion, this church, and this is something I always told y'all. There's no such thing as a place called heaven. There's no such thing as a place called hell. But anyway, So it's called the pleroma. So they call it the divine perfectness. Everything is perfect. Everything is harmony. Everything is in sync. So the monad of the Most High God is in the center of the pleroma, or who would say is the head of the pleroma. Now, I told you in the beginning that these books were called the Nag Hammadi Library or the Gnostic Text. So now what I want to do is I want to explain who the Gnostics are. All right, explain who the Gnostics are. So, first of all, the Gnostic comes from the Greek word gnosis, and it just means knowledge. All right, so these Gnostic people, they were known for the knowledge, the spiritual knowledge that they had. They were also, the Gnostic were groups of mystics, groups of spiritual people, and they got their information directly from Yeshua. So they would get their information from dreams, they would get it from visions, or some of them they would go in meditations, and they would connect that way. So everything they did it more in a spiritual state instead of the religious way. So that's how they would get their information. So the goals of the Gnostics, they were trying to wake people up to the truth. So, and it's funny because it sounds just like me, because their information was suppressed. They suppressed their information so it wouldn't spread to people. And not only that, they would slaughter a lot of the Gnostics because basically they was not following the religious order. So you know the whole thing about the Bible and the stuff that they put in and the Jesus and all this other stuff, you know, they wasn't following all of that stuff. You know, they didn't believe all of it because it was like, we have the direct connection. We're not going along with y'all saying and this stuff that's put in the Bible. We sit, we meditate, we pray, we fast, we get dreams, we get visions, and the stuff that we're getting, the information we're getting is not adding up with this stuff that y'all put in the Bible. So they start killing them off. Now, something that I tell y'all is Yeshua was never a religious person. He was always a spiritual person, like they call him a mystic, a spiritual person. Now let's talk about how it all started. You know, in the beginning I talked a lot about the demiurge. I also talked about Yaldabaoth, Yahweh, Jehovah, Lord, Archon, all the same. And see, that's another thing that I see when I'm working with a lot of these demons, these false gods. People get so confused and get so tricked up because you would be dealing with a demon, but this demon will have these different names because what used to happen is you would have different regents that called a demon or gave a demon a different name. So let's just use Satan for example, right? So it might be Satan on the West Coast. On the East Coast, it might be Lucifer. You know, and out of the country, they might just call him just the devil. So they have all of these different names that they are using, but it's the same person. So Sophia, which remember I told you Sophia is the eon. This is the eon of wisdom. So, and this stuff is according to the text out of the Gnostic text. So, hold on now. Yeah. So Sophia was real anxious to create. This eon wanted to create. Now, to create properly, the proper way, of course, you have your male counterpart and your female counterpart. That's just like with Yeshua, y'all. So when we talk about the Most High, people will say, oh, he's a man, oh, he's a woman. So what happened with that, you have the Most High, but the Most High took the form of man, which is Yeshua. He walked the earth. He was a man, right? But while he's not on earth, he's just energy, but he is both counterparts. So he's male and female. So it's feminine and masculine energy. So it's both, because it's all energy. All right. So Sophia was anxious to create and did this without her counterpart. She did it without the male counterpart. And she created the demiurge, or she created Yaldabaoth without her partner. When she did that, she created what we call an imperfect being. It's not perfect. After she creates Yaldabaoth, or this demiurge, she realized that he was imperfect, and she hid this being outside of the pleroma. Right, so remember, the pleroma, it is a realm. So don't look at it as a space that you can go to. It's just a realm. It's a dimension. So it's not like it's one particular place. It's a realm. It's a dimension. So she hides this demiurge. She hides Yaldabaoth outside of the pleroma. So when she hides him, he's not aware that there's anything else that's higher than him, because he doesn't even know about the pleroma. All right. So he starts to think that he's the only God, because there's nobody else but him. He's blind to the fact that there's a pleroma, the Most High, these eons. So he's blind to all of this. Well, the demiurge of Yaldabaoth, that is who created Earth. That's who created this school/prison that we're in. Now, I want to move and talk about the archons. All right? So the demiurge, or Yaldabaoth, he created these things called archons. So I like to say that the archons are nothing but a virus that is in a simulation. That's what they do, create viruses. But unfortunately, the virus that they create, that's when we get attacked. So this demiurge of Yaldabaoth created these archons. Now, archons mean ruler or authority. Now, what these archons are able to do, they are able to create a virtual, they are able to create a false virtual reality and illusion. So they're not creators, but they can create false things. All right. So it's false. So they can't create anything from scratch. Everything is like a copycat or imitation. And these archons, they are assistants to the demiurge or to Yaldabaoth. Now, they're also known to be the master deceivers. So y'all, have we heard anything else that's called the master deceiver? These things are called the master deceivers. They have no empathy for people. They have no remorse at all. So no remorse for the people at all, no empathy. They feed off of fear and they feed off of negativity. So the more I'm starting to talk about these things, y'all, who do they sound like to y'all as I'm talking about this? Their job is to keep humans trapped into the physical world. Exactly, they're starting to sound like demons. So their job is to keep the humans trapped in this physical world. Now, the reason why these archons really hate humans so much, because they're jealous, because like I told you before, they cannot create. So when I say they cannot create, so if you were to give them a blank sheet of paper, they wouldn't know what to do with it. It'll just be a blank sheet of paper, right? But of course, if you gave us a blank sheet of paper, we could draw, whatever. So what they would do was they would look at what we drew, and then they can start working based off of what we created. So that's what I say, they're not able to create on their own. And they'll try to duplicate what we did, but it'll be a false illusion, a false image of what we're doing. So that is what they do. They're also jealous because we carry this spark. And I talked to y'all a lot about we all carry this spark of the Most High God that is within us. They don't carry that spark at all. So they are here to basically keep us in prison, is what they're here to do. And of course, lie to us and feed off of our energy. Now, I say energy, but you have some people out here, and some of these experts that talk about this stuff, they call it loosh. That's what they call it. So, loosh is produced through struggle, through fear, through pain, through death, through religion, through war, through division, through hate, and through greed. So people don't understand like the whole death thing when someone passes away. So we're never supposed to grieve, because you start grieving, and grieving turns into depression. It can turn into anxiety. It can turn into anger. It could also lead to a person being suicidal. These are all negative things, but the reason it's like that because people don't understand the death process. Because technically you don't die, you just lose the shell. So I know people miss the loved ones or whatever, or maybe they died in a tragic way, but technically you're not supposed to grieve. So when when you're grieving, or anxiety, depression, and any of those things that I named, you create something called loosh, which is just low vibrational energy. And these things, they feed off of it. That's why I tell people it's very, very important for you to keep your vibration as high as possible. When you do low vibrational things, when you drink, when you curse, when you get angry, you are feeding them, and this is how they get stronger. This is how they get stronger. So these archons, they harvest our low vibrational energy. Some call it loosh, and they feed off of it. So what the goal is here, we have this demon, this demiurge, Yaldabaoth, Yahweh, Jehovah, or Lord Archon, that is running this whole simulation that we are in. This is a system, y'all. Whether you want to believe it or not, it is a simulation. It is the matrix. It's all a system that we are in. Yeshua is not running it. Yaldabaoth is running it. That's why the world is the way it is. That's why there's so much negativity. You know, that's why on the news, like I was talking about the other day, you rarely hear anything positive. It's all negativity, you know, because that's what they're trying to promote. You know, they're trying to promote that. This is how these things feed off of that type of energy. They feed off of that negativity. And they feed off of that fear. Now, these archons, so their goal is to keep us trapped in a reincarnation cycle. Because again, we never die. So we reincarnate and we come back again. All right, so this is the thing. All right, when I talk about this reincarnation, so this is, like I said, it's a school, but it's also a prison as well. So we know we come back to learn certain lessons. But this is the thing. People think that, and y'all have heard me say this several times, people think that Yeshua died for our sins. That's what they think. They think that he died for our sins. All right, and especially well, I guess what confuses me is, so I'm gonna talk about the Christians or just the religious people, especially the ones that say that they've read the Bible. They say that they've read the Bible, but I say it all the time. I can't believe that they read it because they miss so much, or either they're just skipping over stuff that they don't want to talk about. So again, we're just going to stick to what the Christians say. So the Christians say Yeshua died on the cross. He died for our sins. But yet when I tell people, I say go to, it's a book, right? It's called The Gospel of Mary Magdalene. And it is Mary 3, verses 1 through 9. It says, Peter said, "What is the sin of the world?" Jesus said, "There is no sin, but it is you who make sin when you do the things that are like the nature of adultery, which is called sin." So he's saying that there is no sin, but then he turns around and he says that people do things that it could look like sin, which the whole thing sounds confusing, but he's saying that there's no sin. So it's true, y'all. So there's no sin at all. And this is something that I've talked about. So he did not die for our sins. You know, everything you do is about a lesson, and it's about it's all tied to cause and effect. That's what it's about. You know, if you do something, of course you're gonna have an outcome. Be a good outcome or a bad outcome. But at the end of the day, it's all lessons. There's no such thing as sins. No such thing as just 10 commandments. All of this stuff is all made up. All right. So anyway, so we go through this reincarnation cycle. Now, through this cycle, when I see people about the past, I think I've seen this maybe once or twice, but I hear different stories about it from family members. How they say when somebody is passing, they start reaching, like they're reaching for someone, like somebody's coming to get them. So most people say, oh, it's probably an angel or it's probably a loved one. So what is happening, y'all, that these archons are making these images that look like our loved ones. Right? So they grab our hand and, you know, they walk with us, and you go through this life review. Now, I definitely know that the life review stuff is real. I don't think I ever told y'all this before. But when I was about, let's say about 12. I was maybe about somewhere between 12 and 13. It was me and my sister who was doing some work. So just imagine this. So imagine one pickup truck that's parked, right? And it's parked and it has the tailgate down. I'm standing in front of the tailgate. All right, so it's one pickup truck with the tailgate down, and I'm standing in front of the tailgate. So what we was trying to do was, we had trash that was on the second pickup truck. So we decided, hey, we'll just back up the second truck to the first truck so the tailgates can touch and we can just walk the trash from one truck to the other truck. So that was the plan. But I'm standing in front of the tailgate. So I'm standing in front of the tailgate and I'm looking at her and I'm telling her, giving her the signal, come on back, come on back, come on back. Well, when you're looking through the mirrors, you know how they say the objects can look closer than what they appear, but that's exactly what happened. She came back so fast, when I looked down, I noticed that I was off my feet. So I'm like, what is going on? How am I moonwalking? So I looked and I noticed that she had backed up and the tailgate was in my stomach. So I was pent between two tailgates. She kept coming back. So I remember when I went to tell her to stop and don't back up anymore, I could not get any words out of my mouth. And when I looked down, I remember that the truck had me, the tailgates had me in the middle and it was squeezing me and it was lifting me. It had already lifted me off the ground, so my feet were off the ground. And then the next thing I remember, I felt like I was ready to pop. I remember my eyes they felt like it was trying to come out the socket. So as this is happening, I remember seeing these flashes. I mean, it was going so fast. It was almost like me as a baby. It was almost like it was showing me pictures as I was growing up, but it was going at this real fast speed, and I didn't understand it. So I started seeing this, and I remember saying to myself, I was like, wow, I'm dying. I don't want to die like this. So I said, well, let me try one last time. So when I looked up and we connected eyes, she saw that something didn't look right. And, she put the truck in drive and she pulled forward and I hit the ground. She ran back. She's like, oh my God, you all right? So, it took me a minute to get myself right, but I was good. But anyway, so it was almost like I was seeing some type of life review or something. And it reminded me of a reel. Someone's just showing you a reel of your life. So I saw that. But anyway, so we reincarnate, we come back, but these archons, what they're doing is they are tricking us. They are coming and they are appearing to be angels or a loved one. So they take us to this review, this life review. And this life review, so this whole thing about, we're going to get judged when we die. Jesus is going. And I tell people all the time, you are your own judge. Nobody is judging you. So we watch this life review of ourselves. So, and I remember being told that a while ago. I was told that everything that you say and everything you do is being recorded. I was told that some years ago. So now everything is just really making sense. So you're looking at this life review, and so what's happening is all of your decisions and everything you said, now you get to see how they affect other people. So all of the mean things you said, or all of the good things you said, anything you've done that's been grimy, just anything, just like I tell a lot of the guys, like in Virginia period, there's a lot of guys that hustle, right? So they sell dope, and I would tell them, at some point, you are going to see what you're doing, all right? You sell some cracker, you sell some dope to a man, to a husband. All right, he got a wife, he got 4 kids. Now he just smoked all the money up. You know, he just smoked up with the rent, the mortgage. So now the kids outside, and the wife stressing. So it's showing you everything and from that one action. So that one action of making that one sale, it just shows you, what you did. So, that now that the family has collapsed, the guy is so strung out, the family splits. Now the kids are growing up. The father's not around, so now that's causing the issue. Now the kids are suicidal. Now they're depressed. I mean, it just leads on to one thing after another. So you sit back and you see the stuff that you call. So it's good and it's bad, but you feel the emotions of those people. So as that family was going through that split and those kids were saying, oh, I don't have my father no more, that wife losing her husband, you start feeling those feelings, right? So you watch all this stuff. Again, this is not to judge you. This is just for you to sit back so you can see what was what, and so you can kind of learn off this stuff. So you see all this. So these archons, what they'll do. So let's just say that's over. All right, that's over. So now it's okay. It's time to either go back with the Most High or come back to the prison or come back to this school and have some more lessons done. So what the archons try to do is try to persuade you, like, hey, why don't you just come back and you can make it better. Come back and do it over again. So they're tricking people. And that's why people keep calling it a trap. Because they are tricking people to try to come back, and that's how you're getting caught. So when Yeshua died, first of all, Yeshua was hung. He was never placed on the cross, he was hung. And when he died, he did not die for our sins. It had nothing to do with that. He was sacrificed because he was going around trying to preach and help people to wake up, help people to break free from the religion, and also teach on how to not come back, so that you don't get caught up in the loop, so that you don't get caught up in this reincarnation. So that's what he was going around. That's what he was doing, and not going around to have people to worship him. It was never about worship with him. He was all about, I want to make y'all like me. I want to make you all like me or better than me. It was never about worshiping him. He wanted people to be like him. So that's what it was about. But again, as he walked around and he started doing all these different teachings and letting people know, hey, the love and the Most High, all this stuff is within you. This kingdom of heaven, all this other stuff. All this stuff is within you. And to teach people that we're not humans, we are spiritual beings. This is what people don't understand. Y'all, technically we are not humans. We are spiritual beings in a human body. So we are spiritual beings having a human experience. We're not human. We are spiritual beings. We have that spark of the Most High. We have that spark of Yeshua that is in us. So that's what he was trying to teach on how to be able to come out of this reincarnation trap. Because if not, you're just going to keep getting recycled. And you keep going through it and going through all of this stuff. Just constantly keep going through it. And you be caught in this trap. And again, that's what they want, because they want to feed off your loose. They want to feed off of this negative energy. Now, I had a dream, and in this dream I saw this this man, like a man with an alien in it or something. I don't know. It looked weird. But I saw him walk up to a lady, and I saw his mouth stretch open wide, like he was going to kiss her. And I saw his mouth open wide, and I saw he was sucking all of this energy out of her. So now that makes me think that there was like an icon or something that I was looking at, because that's what it was doing. And I saw the lady as it looks like she was like being drained, because I told you they feed off all of that negativity. And so that's what I saw, that it was sucking it slam out of her. So when I work with people with this deliverance, and when these people have multiple demons attached to them, when they're going through possession, one thing that I hear all the time, people always say, I don't have no energy, I'm so tired, and they don't understand why. Well, you are so tired because the demons are harvesting your energy. They're sucking you dry. That's why you're so tired. That's why you ain't motivated. All your life force, all your prana energy, or some call it your loosh, is sucking all of it out of you, and that's why you're so tired. That's why you're so drained. Now, in these texts, Yeshua, so he had a brother named James. So in these texts, and it's called The Secrets of James, the First Apocalypse of James. That's the name of the book. And in this book, Yeshua is he's telling James on how to avoid this trap. So I'm gonna read to you what he was telling his brother. So basically, Yeshua is just telling his brother James that after death, he will meet cosmic gatekeepers. So when he dies, he will meet cosmic gatekeepers. He's telling him that the cosmic gatekeepers are really archons. And these archons try to stop the souls from passing. All right. Then Yeshua gives the answer so that he can pass. So he tells his brother James, he says, basically telling him that you need to say, I'm not from this world. I belong to the higher divine realms. My real source is beyond you. So this is what you are supposed to say when you are greeted by these gatekeepers. Because again, they are going to try to influence you to come back. And your memory will be wiped. I mean, you gotta think about it like this. If we all knew what we was jumping back into, how many people you think will come back? Nobody will want to come back to this. So that's why they wipe your memory. But when that time comes, if you say, I'm not from this world, I belong to the higher divine realm. My real source is beyond you. So basically, you belong to the pleroma, because that's where he's at. Yeah, because that's where he is at. Now, I'm going to read y'all some verses, right? And I know one particular verse y'all have heard me read before. How many of y'all have heard me, because I talk about this a lot. How many times have y'all heard me talk about this verse? Exodus 20, verse 5. For I, the Lord your God, am a jealous God. How many times have y'all heard me say that this God that you're reading about in the Bible, it is not the God that you think? I've been saying this for years and years and years. And I always say that our God, the Most High God, is not jealous. If he was jealous, that means he would have to have the spirit of jealousy in him. That is a spirit, y'all, that I call out in deliverance. So that's just like saying the Most High has a spirit in him. But you gotta remember, he's 100% perfection. So, but for some reason, a lot of the religious people and the Christian people, they constantly say this, oh, our God, he a jealous God. He don't want you to worship and think they know what they're talking about. And it sounds dumb. I mean, it does. It just sounds stupid. I mean, it doesn't make sense for you to say that the Most High God is a jealous God when jealousy is a spirit. So you saying that he has a spirit inside of him. He has a bad spirit inside of him when he is 100% perfection. All right? So I'm going to read some more. Exodus 20, verse 3. Thou shalt not have no other God before me. All right, read another one. Isaiah 45, 5. I am the Lord, and there is none else. There is no God besides me. I'll read another one. Genesis 1:1. Well, before I get to that one, let's talk about these three that I just named. There shall not have no other God before me. I am the Lord, and there is none else. There is no God besides me. The other verse, for I, the Lord your God, am a jealous God. All of these verses, those three verses that I just read right there, all of those verses are coming from the demiurge. It's coming from Yaldabaoth. They all are coming from Yaldabaoth. And he really truly believed, I guess, at some point that when he says, I am the Lord and there's no one else. There's no God besides me. He actually thought he was the only God because remember I told y'all that Sophia hid him outside of the pleroma. So he really thought he was the only God. So those verses that you're hearing right there, again, these are verses from or about the demiurge of Yaldabaoth. All right. Then let's talk about these two other verses. Genesis 1:1. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Genesis 1:3. Let there be light, and there was light. All right. There's some more to go to that verse, but that's the short version. But anyway, y'all, it's not talking about the Most High creating. All of this is talking about the creation of the demiurge, of Yaldabaoth. Yaldabaoth created the earth based on what these texts are saying. He created the earth. He created this prison, which is, it's a school, but Yeshua was crucified trying to help spread the word on how to not get trapped so that you don't have to keep recycling and coming back over and over and over and over. You'll be trapped. You'll never be able to get out of here. You will never be able to get out of here. Something else I want to talk about when we start talking about the Bible. I said, you know what? I said, let me look at something. So I just wanted to get an idea of, in the Bible, who was doing all the killing. Because, you know, that's something else I talk about. I tell y'all, the God in the Bible does all the killing. So, you know, I started doing some research, y'all, and it's so crazy to me. Do you know in the Bible, they said roughly the God in the Bible, God or Jesus, he was behind at least 50 slaughters. At least 50. I ain't talking about killing 50 people. 50 slaughters. All right, and just to give you some examples, and I mean, this is not all of them. This is just to give you some examples. Genesis 7. God sends a flood to kill an entire population. 1 Samuel 15 commands the slaughters of the Amalekites, including all of their children. All of these commands are being given by the God in the Bible. Exodus 12. God kills all the firstborn in Egypt. Numbers 21. God sends venomous snakes to kill his own people. Genesis 19. God destroys Sodom and Gomorrah, killing everyone. 2 Kings 2. God sends 2 bears to maul 42 boys to death. Numbers 16. God sends a plague to kill 14,700 people. 2 Samuel 24. God sends a plague to kill 70,000 innocent people. Isaiah 37. God kills 185,000 Assyrians and they're asleep. God is doing all this killing. Now, I just gave y'all a few verses. This is what I just did. Just gave you a few verses. Now, what I want to do is, I say, you know what? Well, let me look and let's see who Satan is killing. Do y'all know, out of all the research that I've done, you know, it's only one example of Satan directly killing. Job 1:19. Satan creates a wind to make Job's house collapse on his kids. Out of all the books out of the Bible, I can only find that one thing. And I just named 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I just named 9, and there's way more. This ain't feel like writing all of it. Way more that I could have kept writing. But again, these people are following this God and they're like, oh, this is the real God and it's this and it's that. But again, it's this programming that I tell y'all about. It's this religion. It's this programming and it's religion. So when you talk to most of the religious people, and when you talk to most of these Christians, the first thing they'll say, oh, that's the Old Testament. No, that's their go-to thing. That's the Old Testament. But the thing that gets me is that it's the Old Testament, but yet they're constantly talking about the creation story. I don't hear nothing about the Old Testament. They're constantly talking about Adam and Eve. They constantly talk about Noah and the Ark. They constantly talk about the Ten Commandments. They constantly talk about Moses. They constantly talk about King David and Goliath, but they won't say that's the Old Testament because we pick and we choose, and that's what it's about. They like to pick and choose. But again, I understand it because they are brainwashed. I mean, just the Christians. It's a lot of these religious people. They are brainwashed and they don't get it. They're not even trying to get it. Now, when they say, okay, well, all this stuff you talked about, this Old Testament, you know, then I could just, it's a verse right here, Malachi 3:6. So let's just say they said, oh, well, this Old Testament, we don't pay that no mind. So then I read this verse, Malachi 3:6. For I, the Lord, do not change. Therefore, you, O children of Jacob, are not consumed. So, he said he don't change. The God says he don't change in the Old Testament. So we know in the New Testament it's still the same God. He said he don't never change. Well, our God will never change. But again, they pick and they choose. That's all they do. And pump fake when I want to answer something. So this is some stuff that you really need to sit back and think about. That's why all my Bibles are in the trash can. They're in the trash. People say, oh my God, you threw the Bible? Yes, in the trash. Shot a 3-pointer away. Straight in the garbage. That's where it's at. We never had another one since then. So there's some stuff to think about. Now, this is the thing. All right, this is the thing. So most of us back then would have probably been with the movement with the Gnostics, the spiritual movement. It wouldn't have been with that religious stuff. The ones that are stuck, because we do have some people that are stuck. The ones that are stuck with this program and they're having a hard time trying to rewire, they're having a hard time trying to pull from this religion and these beliefs and all this tradition. They're having a rough time. But they don't understand that it's going to make it rough when the time comes. We all leaving one day. So when that time comes and you are watching this life review and you already programmed, you already got all of this fear in you and all this religious stuff, and you just want to, you just want to do right, and they'll try to show you this stuff to make you feel like you did wrong, and you just say, yeah, I'll come back. Come right back, wipe your memory, you're going right through it again. And it's a lot of people now that, and it's mostly starseeds that I talk to, and they say, oh, I hate it here. I hate the way it feels here. I just want to leave. And they're suicidal, and I have to tell them, suicidal is definitely the wrong thing, because it ain't no way, you don't get out like that. So when that happens, you are automatically coming back and repeating the lesson. So if it's already hard, and you wait and then you commit suicide, you're coming right back and you're repeating it all over again. So that, in terms of that, it ain't no way out of that. You have to go through certain things. So that's that. That is that. So to sum everything up, y'all, we in this simulation, we in this matrix, we in this prison jail / school. So we do come here to learn lessons. But at some point, the lessons are over with. So it's time for us to return back to, I'm going to say, the pleroma. Right? But these archons are trying to stop that. They want to keep you trapped inside this loop. They want to keep you trapped inside of this system. They want to try to have you vibrating as low as possible with all of this negativity, so that you can constantly feed them, so they can constantly keep getting stronger and stronger. Some of the simplest things, even, I tell people, don't pop your kids, don't hit your kids, anything that you're doing like that, anything, it just creates this negativity, and they feed off of this. All of the arguing that some of y'all are doing, all of this anger, or your attitude, or just being negative, all of that, all you're doing is feeding these things. That is all you're doing. You're feeding them. And you feed them, and they get stronger and stronger and stronger, and that's why you're having such a hard time breaking loose. Or then you go to someone, and you're thinking this person will help you out, but you go into a witch, you go into a warlock, and then you've done all this witchcraft. You get a lot of people that they're involved in all of this witchcraft. They're burning candles. They're making sacrifice with chickens, goats. They're making all these sacrifices. And then you come and you want all of it to be just wiped away like that in the snap of a finger. It don't work like that. It does not work like that. It just don't. It's a process with deliverance. It's not fast. So I tell people, you got to think about what you're doing. Think about what you're doing. Because you create all these problems for yourself, and you're looking to find somebody that can just wipe this slate clean just like that, and it don't work that way. So when people come to me, I don't tell them some of this stuff that this other people tell. Oh, burn this candle, it'll all be gone, or do this. Nah, it does not work that way. It does not. It does not work that way. And one of the main things I see with the ladies, they're trying to manipulate these guys to stay with them, or want to try to manipulate the guy to bring them back. Manipulation, you can't do that. You can't manipulate Nobody's free will, and you do it, and then you cause more problems for yourself. Yep, you cause more problems for yourself. So the whole time, y'all, we've been thinking that it was Satan. We've been thinking that it's Lucifer, and then, yeah, but it's Yaldabaoth. It's Jehovah. And I don't know, you know, some of y'all know that's what Jay-Z called himself, young Hova, Jehovah. You know, I know a guy right now. He got a podcast. It's pretty popular. I forgot the name of it, and he a pastor dude. I forgot what his name was, but that's all he wears, shirts with Yahweh on it. I mean, because he really believed that that's, you know, the true God. So it's a lot of tricks that's going on, y'all. A lot of stuff that's happening. That's all I can say. It is a lot. So this is something for you to think about. But just know that we know Yeshua ain't running this world because it wouldn't be this way. Yaldabaoth is the creator. He's running all this mess. And that's why I said nobody's coming here to save you. Yeshua is here to help, to try to guide us out of that. But nobody is here that's going to fly down with a cape and swoop you up and it's all over. It don't work that way. And that's what you think. You keep sitting here, you'll be sent for a long time. Yeah, you're going to be sent for a long time waiting. For a long time. Just waiting and waiting with your hair braided, with all your edges gone, because you've been waiting years and years, because it ain't gonna never happen. Never gonna happen. So anyway, so we want to make this, don't want to make this sound like all doom and gloom. So what I say is, while we're here, we have to make the best out of it. That's all we can do. Make the best out of it while we are here. That's all you can do. So, based on what Yeshua is saying in these texts, he's telling us what to say when that day comes. What you need to say so that you can pass on. Yep. So that you can pass on. You let them know that you are not from this world. You belong to the higher divine realm. My real source is beyond you. Yep, so we can go and in this realm, this pleroma, because we are a part of him, just like these aeons are a part of the Most High. They radiate, they are a part. You know, they say, oh, we going to where his mansion's at, and it's this, and yeah, one lady I was listening to her, she said, oh yeah, I saw the kids jumping on the trampoline, and one man was flying like Superman, and they come up with all this stuff. But anyway, yeah, y'all, so that is going to conclude that for tonight. So they give you something to think about, but they'll let you know exactly what we dealing with and who's running what. So, you know, so it ain't Satan, it ain't Lucifer, it is Yaldabaoth. That is the problem. He's the problem. And I have never ever heard a preacher, a prophet, ever mention that name ever before. Because everybody pretty much just been thinking Satan, Lucifer thing, but it's Yaldabaoth the whole time. Yeah. So we're gonna do Q&A tomorrow, y'all. I know a lot of people have questions about this, so write your questions down and remember them. And we're gonna talk about Yaldabaoth is why. Well, I'm gonna put it in the chat real quick before I go. We're gonna hold all your questions for tomorrow, and we're gonna talk about it tomorrow. I forgot it. And if you're on TikTok and YouTube, y'all already know you have to come over to kick.com and follow the Woke Prophet. We'll be doing the Q&A tomorrow on this. Yaldabaoth. So that's how you spell Yaldabaoth. Or you can put in the demiurge. Yep, or the demiurge, y'all. So that's what we're dealing with. So we will we'll talk about everything tomorrow, y'all. You said this is the worst news. What I told you. I told you it won't good. But I mean, at least you know. So at least we know what we're dealing with. You know, at least we know what we're dealing with. You know, you never know that day may come, and you know you get escorted, and everybody don't notice, and you'll say, you know what? I'm supposed to say this. This is a trick. You know, hey, I can switch everything up. You know, so. But you know, like I said, we here and just keep your vibration high, and that's the most important thing. Stay positive. All right, so I know it's a lot of questions, but we'll jump back on this tomorrow at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So again, if you're on TikTok and YouTube, Monday through Friday, I'm on Kick at 7 p.m. EST. And I go live over here on Kick. So you will need to follow me on Kick. Follow the Woke Prophet. You can go through the app, or you can just go through your web browser, kick.com, follow Woke Prophet, and then that way you will be able to see everything live. All right, y'all, I'm out of here, and that's what we are. That's what we dealing with. But like I said, at least we know. Just like they used to say at the end of the G.I. Joe cartoons, and knowing is half the battle. Knowing is half the battle. Good night to all. And remember, y'all.